What's the first thing that pops up for us? Let's see. The Five Nights at Freddy's theory you never heard. 1.6 million views, but it was 3 months ago. This is actually pretty recent. I'm not gonna lie, we might have to lock in.
Give me a few minutes, and
oh my god, is it actually about the FNAF 4 box? This is like one of the biggest ones, is like what is actually inside this box. Even Scott Cawthon said himself, like, it changed or something like that, if I remember. Like, whatever was in the box, it changed over time. Something like that. It was very weird. But let's freaking lock in.
give me a few minutes, and I promise I will change the way you view Five Nights at Freddy's forever. There is an apparent contradiction in this series that, when resolved, gives you the key to the Death Order timeline and a shocking reveal about one of the main characters in Five Nights at Freddy's. I have uncovered something that can provide a complete, coherent, and simple timeline of the events of the first 7 games.
My socks better be knocked off.
Multiple bombshells in
I'm not wearing socks, forget what I said.
this video that I think I may be breaking for the first time. For longtime fans, bear with me. We will be revisiting key moments in the series. It's important for the answers to make sense. And if you're new to the franchise, I will try to provide enough context for the mystery and following solution to be fully understood. I am freaking out right now. I've long thought that the reason Five Nights at Freddy's hadn't been solved was because somewhere, hidden amongst all the things we assume to be true, is the culprit.
The culprit?
A single misconception so widely held that most forget it's not outright confirmed. It must have been stated somewhere, I can't remember where, we'd say when confronted on our belief, our misunderstanding. And if I had to bet money as to where this misunderstanding was born, I'd put it here. The 4th game in the series,
which was
the most
supposed to be the
controversial
last
game from a lore standpoint at the time of its release, and home to the first thing that always bothered me about these games. The game's story takes place in 1983 and revolves around the crying child who's bullied by his older brother and is brought to Freddy Fazbear's almost every day, a place that he hates. Something frightens him here, but we aren't told what. At the end of the game, we're at his birthday party when his older brother Mike and a few of his friends do this. In this dark void, the child hears Mike say he's sorry. And then we hear the sound of a flatline. The crying child is dead. At the end of this game, you're shown a box that you can't open. Text on screen reads, "Perhaps some things are best left forgotten for now." After the game's release, Scott Cawthon, the game's creator, made a post on Steam to update
the Halloween
fans in
update.
regards
I
to the
forgot about
upcoming
that.
DLC. At the end, he talks about the box. There are a few things to take away from this. The majority of the fan base correctly understood the first game, as with FNAF 2 and 3. And then, something happened. Something slipped through. A bug in our code. A fault in our system. And just like that, we couldn't do it.
Huh?
We couldn't solve it anymore.
Wait, let me rewind that so I can read that. Wait. Yeah, let me try reading that real quick.
We couldn't do it. We couldn't
It
solve
was,
it.
but then I released part 4, and somehow, no one, not a single person, found the pieces. Scott Cawthon said this years ago. This is during the Halloween update with FNAF 4, and he said, no one, not a single person, found the pieces. That's actually insane.
Anymore. Not for lack of trying, either. Scott himself was so surprised by this that he changed the DLC plans that involved opening the box, because we never put the pieces together. We weren't ready for what was in the box, because there was something fundamental we didn't understand from this game. And since this game was the last in the original story, what better way to end it than with that cliffhanger? The artist's job is done. He's planted all the evidence. The rest is up to us. There are a lot of dead people in this series. It's time we tie up loose ends. Finally give some spirits their rest. even if it means getting our hands dirty. The main gameplay in Pizzeria Simulator is, as the title implies, building your own pizzeria. But if you purchase the arcade game Midnight Motorist and clip out of bounds on the final lap, you're taken to this.
Yup.
You can be refused entry into this strange building, find this mysterious dirt patch in the woods, and come home where there's a figure watching TV who tells you to take it easy on someone who's locked themselves in their room. Upon going around to the back of the house, we can find a broken window, a trail of footprints leading away from the house, and one pair of footprints that look to have been made by an animatronic. The common interpretation of the Midnight Motorist game is that we're playing as William Afton, the main villain of the series, after fleeing the parking lot where he killed this kid. The gray figure on the couch is William's son Mike, and the runaway is the younger crying child, both of whom we met in Five Nights at Freddy's 4. If the runaway is the crying child, then the animatronic footprints must belong to an animatronic possessed by one of the missing kids. You see, in the first game, we learned that 5 kids were killed and their bodies were stuffed into animatronics. This became known as the Missing Children incident, as the bodies were never found. But if this is an animatronic possessed by one of them, that means the puppet must already be possessed for the missing kids to have been given new life, as we can see happening in
Hold up.
But if this is an animatronic possessed by one of them, that means the puppet must already be possessed for the missing kids to have been given new life, as we can see happening in this minigame. The reason most fans believe Midnight Motorist takes place directly after William killed this girl is because of the rain and a few other things, but mostly because you start by speeding away and the files have this half of the minigame titled Later That Night.
So it's all wrapped around the same night.
This girl was killed
Rest in peace, Charlotte.
This? Has she already possessed the puppet, given the missing kid's life, and one of them has already come here and lured the crying child outside? All of this before William
I don't think Charlie would be in the box, me personally.
And wait, the only thing we know about the crying child for certain is that he is absolutely terrified of the animatronics and anything Freddy's that isn't a plush. It's his defining characteristic from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. He'd never jump out his window to follow one of these machines into a dark and stormy night. And while we're on the topic of out-of-character moments, why is Mike being portrayed as so caring and concerned for his younger brother before his brother's been killed? This isn't like him at all. Unless this isn't Mike. But he's watching TV just like...
Let me just listen.
Mike watched that old show in Sister Location. He also wears a gray shirt like Mike in FNAF 4. If he's not Mike, then we need some kind of precedent, something to show that characters in this game don't have to be represented by the traditional color.
It's just a regular brother thing. It's a regular older brother thing. An older brother can really just care about his little brother but bully him. You know what I mean? I still think that is Michael Afton. Like, that is still Mike. Cuddle Pando's coming in with the tier 1 gifted sub to Denny. Denny, if you're in the chat, I hope you say thank you. Thank you so much for the gifted sub. Like, that's just a regular brother thing. That has to be Mike. There's no way it's not. That's a regular brother thing. They will bully their little brothers. Happened to me. I have an older brother, but he still cares about me. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You have to know your kids that well. Come on.
You see, for those of you who are new here, William usually looks like this.
Yeah, he does.
Wait, so who is this?
That's William's wife.
It's not Mike, and it's definitely not the crying child being concerned for his bully of an older brother. It's someone who's able to tell off William, the patriarch of the household. Is this their mom?
Yes.
Is there gray on the top and bottom half because this is a dress? Is that why Mike continues to watch this dated show well into adulthood? Because it was his mom's favorite and he grew up watching it with her? And she is looking after her son who's depressed from feeling like he murdered his own brother? So she protects him from his absent drunk father?
Yeah, that's to be part of your son's life.
That would have to make the runaway Mike, who saw an animatronic that was somehow only able to leave 2 footprints, and would have to be one that compelled him out the window in pursuit. But which one could that have been? And where did Mike go? think we're getting ahead of ourselves. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
I want to make something clear. My aim is to uncover the original intention of the events of the original 7 mainline games.
Okay.
And I think I've done it.
Little
I
help.
didn't use the novels or
No
the
novels?
movies.
No novels or
Those
movies?
are clearly a different canon and are
Yeah, that's
therefore
true.
unreliable in achieving the aim of this video. The books and the movies introduce
I was about to say, because like when it actually comes up to like figuring out theories, like they put little tidbits of new lore when it comes to the books and the movies now. Even when there's some similarities, there's a lot of differences as well when it kind of wraps up. So leaving the game, because the games were here before the books, Scott actually had an original plan for how the game was going to start, and I would say end. I'm not going to lie. I would say end. But the more it grew, it turned into books and it turned into everything else. That's when stuff started flipping. I genuinely think Scott already had a full line for Five Nights at Freddy's, and I'm not even kidding. Something was set in stone. So I get why this dude is only focusing on the game itself. So that's cool.
a logical inconsistency when used to support game theories. You point to an overlap in the novel's story and your theory in order to bolster the credibility of your idea. But to do so, we have to simultaneously ignore everything that's different about the two.
There's a giant booty on the screen.
An example of how I started thinking about these games, a process that took me on quite the journey and led me to making this video. All of the major evidence cited online that the missing children incident took place in 1985 comes from outside the first 7
The big
games.
3!
It doesn't even come from games in the main story continuity. Therefore,
how did
in
you
pursuit of
guys like
solution
Secret of
from
the
within
Mimic, and be
games,
honest?
I decided to approach this process completely agnostic as to when the missing children incident took place. It may have been 1985, but that conclusion must be derived from information inside these 7 games.
I love the vibes.
pieces
It was alright.
are here, waiting to be put together. Shall we?
I like
The
what
reason
Poppy
Five
Playtime
Nights at
did.
Freddy's 4 literally broke the timeline in half is because it appears to present 2 seemingly contradicting facts about the story. These being what the game has to say about the missing children incident and what it has to say about Golden Freddy. However, understanding the only way in which these 2 things aren't in conflict with each other is the key to Five Nights at Freddy's.
Okay.
Sister Location, a game made after Scott realized we couldn't put the FNAF 4 pieces together, showed William Afton's bunker, and inside was a Golden Freddy plush with a walkie-talkie. This is important because in FNAF 4, the crying child is constantly being spoken to by his Golden Freddy plush.
Yeah, that was the theory.
This
Like
led many to assume
Afton
the
was
plush
spying
in
on his
FNAF
kid.
4 was William, the crying child's father,
Spying on
speaking
him.
to him through his favorite stuffed animal. The problem with this is, why would Afton try to terrify his son of Freddy's? Afton works there. Isn't he the one bringing him to work every day? Why would he bring him there and then encourage him to flee? Wouldn't he also be the one planning the kid's birthday party at Freddy's? And how is this plush able to speak to him when it's no longer physically present? I don't deny that the story came to involve William at times speaking to his son through the kid's toys. I even think I know exactly when he's doing that. But in this game, especially at the time of release, there was a spirit at play.
A spirit at play already.
This was a hint as to what's going on in FNAF 4 that was briefly posted to Scott Cawthon's website, and it always stuck with me. What was he talking about here? To understand it, we have to consider who he sent it to. Yes, he posted it on his website, but he also emailed it to Dawko.
Completely out of nowhere, Scott emailed me saying clue.
The target was the game theory livestream conversation.
Food for thought on this live stream or a future live stream.
So what conclusion had
setup.
MattPat, host of Game Theory, come to in his most recent theory on FNAF 4? The conclusion whose details motivated all of these hints. It was that the events of the FNAF 4 minigames take place before the toy animatronics creation. Scott is drawing attention to the fact that this girl has action figures of the toy animatronics.
Right?
In the series, there are different types of animatronics. Your classic animatronics, your animatronics that can also be worn as suits called spring-lock suits, and your more advanced animatronics. The action figures are there to remind us that the toy animatronics already exist. What's so important about the Beak in particular? The action figure sprites are tiny. Think from the perspective of an artist. How can you represent that these are action figures of the toys and not of the other animatronics when you're working with so few pixels? You could do it by including a detail that only
Well, Chica's beak
the
is off,
toys
yeah.
showcase.
And they're
The
more
toy
bright and
animatronics
vibrant, you know what I mean?
Built to detect
They're more saturated.
predators.
They're all tied into some kind of criminal database so they can detect a predator a mile away.
Already exist. The haunted plush and the toy animatronics' existence at the time of the FNAF 4 minigames confirm that the missing children incident where 5 kids were killed and their bodies never found happened before the crying child died. This appears to be pretty cut and dry.
Let me hear that again. Hold on.
That the missing children incident where 5 kids were killed and their bodies never found happened before the crying child died. This appears
I don't think that year adds up.
to be pretty cut and dry until we hear what the game has to say about Golden Freddy. What is seen in shadows is easily misunderstood in the mind of a child. This was a clue in response to another claim from MatPat's most recent theory, that the puppet must be possessed by the ghost of the crying child, partly because someone's hair was sticking out of the Golden Freddy suit, which meant despite dying as a result of Golden Freddy, the crying child couldn't go on to possess that animatronic, because someone was already inside and likely possessed that suit already. That seems to make sense with our conclusion from earlier, that the missing children incident has already taken
Wasn't that
place.
1985?
Then what is Scott trying to tell the stream? He's telling them that this wasn't hair. The child was conditioned to believe the suit contained a body, but the lights are off in this room, and what is seen in shadows is easily misunderstood in the mind of a child. So if the missing children incident has occurred and the Golden Freddy suit is empty, does that mean that only 4 of the missing kids were killed before this? Maybe this kid saw what happened to his friends. Then he's killed and possesses Golden Freddy. Maybe the crying child was the last of the missing kids? That almost makes sense, but it doesn't quite work, does it?
No,
you
it
can't be
doesn't.
considered missing if you flatline at the hospital, surrounded by your relatives. This is the apparent contradiction of FNAF 4. You need the original murders to have happened in order for the haunted plush to exist, but you also need the Golden Freddy suit to be empty in order for the suit to be used by the performers. You need both things to be true. How are there 5 missing kids at this point? If the Golden Freddy suit is empty, which it has to be, how did he hide 5 bodies? And that's when it hit me. The great, big misunderstanding. The girl that was stuffed into Chica was the first murder.
I was the first.
And the first of what would become known as the missing children incident. William Afton lured 5 kids, 5 of the crying child's friends, to a back room while wearing a golden Bonnie suit, killed them, and stuffed their bodies into the animatronics. Only there was one too many. The 5th kid couldn't have been shoved into an animatronic, because if you were going to hide a dead person in an animatronic, the 4 main characters from FNAF 1 are the only options. The golden animatronics are still being opened up for performers to wear, and
Oh, Yasmina with a hand heart, thank
detect
you.
predators, and therefore hadn't been built when the murders were taking place. The misconception from FNAF 4 was that it was only introducing us to the crying child who possesses Golden Freddy, but it wasn't. It was also introducing us to the 5th missing kid. This kid sought revenge against his killer, and what better weapon than to turn your enemy's own son against him, like a worm tongue whispering into his ear, sowing animosity in the family. The crying child's death in the mouth of Golden Freddy connected him to that animatronic, and with the help of the plush, he was able to obtain some control of the suit. The 6th death, but the first animatronic possession. Afton, who must have gotten so drunk in his grief that the local bar finally kicked him out, kills the 7th kid in a rage and just leaves the body in the parking lot. She becomes the puppet and reanimates the original 4 dead kids into Chica, Foxy, Bonnie, and Freddy, because she's gonna need their help. But not Golden Freddy, because someone has already tapped him for their plan of revenge. So, where is this kid? If he wasn't stuffed into an animatronic, where is his body? And how can we make sense of its absence using only the context of the first 4 games? Well, that probably means he's in the one place we never opened. In Pizzeria Simulator,
That is pretty interesting. Soul possessing the 5th. Fredbear plush seeking revenge. But he couldn't hide the body there, which makes sense. But like, how William like put the bodies
using
of the other
the
kids like Freddy, Bonnie, Fox, and Chica.
4 games. Well, that probably means he's in the one place we never opened.
So his body's there, but his soul. I still feel like how the
In
theory
Pizzeria
states the body still
Simulator,
needs to
you can
be
unlock
with the
this
animatronic
image
in some
showing
sense.
6 graves. This is important. There aren't 7. Now, I just suggested there are 7 dead kids.
But there needs to be
so
a piece
either
of
I'm
them.
wrong, or I better have a really good reason there are only 6. Something that always struck me as odd was creating tombstones for missing kids. I know everyone grieves differently, but if my kid went missing and hadn't been found, I wouldn't be too eager to create their tombstone. And I'd be amazed if all 5 families did this. And finally, we've come to the most exciting part. The answer to the first 7 Five Nights at Freddy's games was handed to you in the very first game. These are pink slips you can get in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and 2. For 2 people to be fired from Freddy's for the exact same 2 reasons is too much of a coincidence in this franchise. This is the same person. But what was he doing? Tampering with the animatronics. This feels significant, but what role could it possibly serve? Which brings me back to Mike. We last saw him leaving home back to that place again, and I think we can all assume he's gone to Freddy's. We also know it's Mike who got these pink slips, because the FNAF 3 guard hallucinates things from the first 2 games. And we know that was Mike. So the question becomes, why was Mike so interested in working at Freddy's? That's where his brother died. Why was his father suddenly against his son being there? Why was Mike fired for tampering with the animatronics and for odor? Why are there tombstones for missing kids? It's because the kids aren't missing anymore. Mike, haunted by what he did to his brother, makes it his mission in life to find the missing children. That's why he's spending nights at Freddy's. Mike is pulling the bodies out of the animatronics to be found and laid to rest. He found out about them from his brother, Golden Freddy, and released them as soon as he was hired at the FNAF 2 location. The bodies hidden inside the Core 4 and the girl inside the puppet's box. That's why 5 more graves are able to join the crying child. That's why Mike was fired for tampering with the animatronics, and why 5 bodies are seen scattered around the FNAF 2 location at night. Mike released the bodies from the animatronics, giving the family some closure. He's also fired for his odor. Why would he have a strange odor? Let's consult the first game. Fazbear's Pizza has been threatened again with shutdown by the health department over reports of foul odor coming from the much-loved animal mascots. He's been handling decomposed corpses. Even if they weren't found immediately, we know people were looking through these buildings.
We found some great new relics over the weekend.
We also know that when Afton eventually dismantles the animatronics, there are no bodies inside.
That's what made me so upset, is when he did that. There were no bodies.
Afton eventually dismantles the animatronic.
Like nothing. Like, this was the part that confused me the freaking most. Because you would think, like, how Springtrap became Springtrap, William Afton, you know, put on the suit. Like, in how he shoved the kids in the suit. Like, that's how their souls got linked with the animatronics, right? That's how it worked. The bodies of them were merged with the suit. But I never really understood, like, where they would go. Like, when William dismantled it, right? That's the main thing that always had me.
There are no bodies inside. That'd give us
so like
6
Michael
bodies
already
to bury.
did it.
This girl who was taken by the puppet, the crying child who died in a hospital, and the original 4 missing kids. We can't bury the 5th because no one ever found him.
So the 5th kid
Mike
is in the
even
box.
got fired from the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 location for continuing to tamper with the animatronics in an effort to find this boy. We never found him because he had already been buried. This
Put him in the box and
is your
buried him.
7th grave. Now, I know the hardcore fans are thinking about this book right now in light of what I just claimed. This book is a little outside the scope of this video, but I do want to address it. So, what's with this drawing that says my name on a grave? It's believed that a spirit is speaking to the crying child through written, faded text in this book. The crying child is responding by altering text that already exists. Maybe. There's a lot of debate about what's going on in this book, but let's go with that for now. People assumed the faded text on this grave meant the obscured grave in this image belongs to the spirit that's writing in faded text.
Right.
And if we could solve some puzzle here, we'd get the name of that dead kid. However, I just claimed this grave belongs to the crying child. So if all the assumptions about this book that I've just laid out are true, here's what I have to say about it. This faded text spirit isn't trying to help us because he knows the only picture we have of the cemetery has grass in the way. He's giving himself the tombstone he never got. We were meant to realize the 5th kid's body was never put into an animatronic because they were all either taken or needed to function as performer suits during the day. We'd be left to assume he was shoved into a box. Then the original FNAF 4 DLC was going to deal with that discovery, but we didn't put it together. Call it the fanbase's own missing child incident.
Yeah. It's crazy when he said that. I low-key did not expect that. Like, nobody put it together.
The 5th missing child became the forgotten child, but that wasn't the fate he'd accept.
So that's what, like, when Scott flipped everything. Because he even said, like, what's in the box changed.
Closed down, and
Like, he had
Afton
an idea and
converts
then
his
just
robot
changed something
factory
else.
/ laboratory into Circus Baby's entertainment and rentals.
Due to the massive success, and even more so the unfortunate closing of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, it was clear that the stage was set, no pun intended, for another contender in children's entertainment.
He scavenges parts from the old haunted animatronics that no longer have bodies in them, and creates these Frankenstein monsters. These weapons designed to make the child-killing process clean and efficient, fast and discreet. Only something bad happens. Afton's daughter, Elizabeth, becomes the victim
Rest in peace,
of one of
Elizabeth
these new
Afton.
weapons. Then the animatronics down in this cyber hell turn against him.
There is a space under the desk. Someone before you crafted it into a hiding place, and it worked for him.
And he has to leave. He asks his son to free his sister. After all, Mike has shown an aptitude for dealing with animatronics and freeing the bodies locked inside, albeit usually against his father's wishes. So he gives Mike his sister's location. Around the same time, the ghosts of William's past finally catch up to him. 5 ghosts trap him inside the golden Bonnie spring-lock suit, and the leaking roof causes the locks to clamp shut, killing him. Mike finds the cameras his father used to keep an eye on his family, and the radio he spoke to the crying child with. While I don't know if this was the original intention, and we'll never know because the FNAF 4 DLC was canceled, this still makes sense with the evidence I laid out previously. When we first see the Freddy plush, he looks like this. This is William checking in on his son. But sometimes the
Spying on
plush
his boy.
looks like this. Its eyes
Yeah.
revealing a ghostly presence peering through, using the crying child's connection to this toy to give him advice and manipulate him. These represent the father's cameras. This is a ghost. The text color change at the end of the game is the ghost dropping the facade. The faded text that...
So you guys think this is how like William figured out that it's actually possible for kids to actually possess stuff like that? If that's really the case, this is how William found out it's actually possible to do that. You know what I mean? Because if one of them, because he clearly has cameras watching his son, like he knows that his son is actually scared of Fredbear and, you know, Fredbear's family diner. But when he's actually looking at the footage, the bear is also talking to the crying child, right? The bear is also talking when it's actually possessed. Okay. So at one point it's William, at one point it's actually the possessed, you know, spirit trying to get revenge and trying to turn the crying child, let's say, against William. And then there goes the bite of 83. The bite of 83 happened, and then that's when William is like, okay, I will try, you know, maybe, unless the bear is still possessed at the time, the bear said, I will put you back together. But let's say William, this is how it, like, he figured out it's actually able to work, and kids were able to possess animatronics. And now he's just testing it to just, I don't know, genuinely put his kid back together. I don't know. I thought he was in a coma. No, the crying child was definitely in a coma. The nightmares was like a trance. And then I do believe, yeah, the flatline, the crying child died. Mike said it. Yeah, because there's also the thing like, you know, Mike is actually trying to make stuff right. You know, Golden Freddy went to the house, actually tried to tell Mike about everything that William was doing and stuff like that.
Says, does he still talk to you? Is the spirit asking if he's heard from his father? After all, we know that when the conversation in this book takes place, William is also dead. Mike puts all the scavenged haunted metal back into one piece, but isn't expecting that monster to use his body to smuggle itself out into the real world. When Mike is finally freed, he doesn't even die, and now he can't find his father.
I'm going to come find you.
But he's alive because his job in this series still isn't done. Mike doesn't know it yet, but there's one more suit out there with a body inside.
Yup!
We know Mike is hired to work at the Five Nights at Freddy's 3 haunted maze. He's there to clean up whatever's left of this brand stained with blood.
That's that Springtrap.
The owners of the haunted maze loot the old Freddy's locations and find William, now Springtrap. And now that Mike finally sees the fate that has befallen his evil father, he burns the place to the ground. Only Springtrap survives. Henry, the puppet girl's father, sets a trap.
I never actually noticed that. I never noticed that. What? I never noticed that.
Springtrap.
He brightened up the image. I never noticed that. I never seen this before. Springtrap is literally right there if you brighten up the... I never noticed that. What?
Henry, the puppet girl's father, sets a trap. He builds a Pizzeria Simulator to gather the souls of the 4 missing kids. The puppet, who's trapped inside this animatronic, William, Mike, and Elizabeth. This time, the place is built with the intention of incinerating everything inside. But that still leaves 2 souls. The first is the crying child. He isn't present. So how does he let go? How is he able to finally move on? The puppet throws him the birthday party he never got to have. The 4 missing kids that represent the other animatronics fulfill their purpose by aiding him and convincing the crying child to let go of his anger and trauma and be at peace.
Right.
But notice who's not at the party. Who can't let go. Who was forgotten. Discarded. By the characters and by the fan base. It's widely believed and supported by many lines of dialogue that Ultimate Custom Night is William Afton's hell. Only he's not alone down here. Someone is here.
Torturing him forever, yep.
This character is known as the one you should not have killed.
I am remade, but not
Over
by
and
you.
over. Dying by
I am
animatronics
one
over
you
and
should
freaking
not
over.
have killed.
Yep.
At this point, I'm sure you've put together who this is. This is the little boy that didn't get a happiest day because he can't let go. The boy that didn't get a tombstone for his family to
He
come
can't
visit.
physically move on.
This is the spirit who's so vengeful, so full of hatred, that he's willingly trapped himself in hell with his killer just to make sure William suffers eternally. This is the corruption of an innocent child into a demon. And William will have to look at this demon forever as it dances around in the suit that killed William's son, as if to say, look, remember what you did. I know a lot of people interpret this shot of Golden Freddy to mean this has to be the spirit that possesses Golden Freddy throughout all the other games. But we already know that it doesn't have to mean that. We already know the other spirits aren't
moved on.
here.
Yeah, they
These
moved on.
animatronics are projections
I am remade.
created by one spirit meant to torment William. And that's the story of Five Nights at Freddy's. It's about allowing yourself to let go, to heal from your trauma. We aren't meant to dwell on the past, but to appreciate the time we have with the people that are still here. It's about righting wrongs and how holding on to hatred might just turn you into a monster. If you enjoyed this video, you can leave a like, subscribe,
not gonna lie, that
share
was
the
not
video,
bad.
or comment your thoughts. And
That was
we'll
actually a
discuss.
really good theory.
Maybe there's more evidence.
That
for
was
this
actually not
theory that I
bad.
missed. Maybe there's some major
Had me on a
flaw
loop.
here that I just haven't noticed.
Had me
I
on a
followed
loop.
the
That was a
original
W
6
theory, man.
games very closely.
Oh my god, that actually had me. Hold on. I gotta see the comments of this one, to be honest. So much checking out for the video. Awesome comments. I appreciate it. I wanted to include some additional evidence that I didn't make into the video. Also, I've been a few questions exactly how FNAF 2 phone calls and FNAF 2. Yeah, I was about to say a child's lifeless body being in the box because there was nowhere else to hide it. Okay. Guy makes channel, solves FNAF, refuses to elaborate, leaves. Okay. I mean, this theory finally explains the hauntings in FNAF 1 contextually satisfying way. The crying child, Mike's brother. This is my can. Okay, a lot of people are actually rocking with this theory, which is kind of cool. What did you guys think? Yo, Patry coming in with the freaking drum hamster. Oh my god, can we get a W Patry in the chat? Or is it Patry? Thank you, Patry. Oh my god. Dude, let's give a 1 out of 10 on this video, man. This theory was called the Five Nights at Freddy's theory you have never heard about. Made by Faden. Really good. This was made 3 months ago. Still pretty recent.